Well, my name is Liza Plaster, and this is Ripshin Goat Dairy. Ripshin because we live across the highway from the Ripshin Mountain in Happy Valley, which is located about halfway between Lenoir and Blowing Rock, North Carolina. We're in our 8th year with the dairy goats, and this is a 6th generation small family farm. It really is just perfect for dairy goats and for the cheese making. Our mentors are Goat Lady Dairy, who are in Climax, North Carolina. I started thinking about goats seriously when I went to Goat Lady for a couple Februaries to help them with kidding, which was the most daunting aspect of dairy goat raising for me at that time, and it's still a challenge, but as people have told me, 95% of the time the goats can do it all by themselves, so we're just there to watch and help them if they need a little help pulling the kids out, and then give the mothers some nice hot tea, hot water with molasses in it, and dry the little kids off and put a sweatshirt jacket on them, which is something we learned from Goat Lady Dairy. Well, we've lived on this farm for about 35 to 40 years, and the last time anybody had livestock on this farm was when my great-grandfather had a few head of, must have been beef cattle, because I don't ever remember him milking a cow. So that was when I was a really little girl. I remember him maybe with a long stick walking behind a very few cows down the dirt road, which is still our farm road that we share with the tree farm next door. So those were the last livestock raised here. We had a couple of riding horses when my children were growing up, and other than that, it's just been vegetable gardening. When I was growing up, our family had a business that my great-grandfather started in 1904, and our family had for over 100 years of manufacturing sterile allergenic injectable extracts for the allergy patient. We use those extracts to test and to treat the allergy patient. So a lot of my childhood was spent gathering pollens and getting to know the weeds, the trees, and the grasses that grow in this valley and in western North Carolina. So now we've changed a little bit. We're working more with animals than with plants. I've had the goat dairy for 8 years. North Carolina is first in the nation for losing farmland. My comment on that would be that the people who live in this valley have had to fight ever since I've lived here, which has been the last 40 years almost. We've had to fight the commissioners in our county who want to develop this beautiful valley, because of course people would love to live here. More people would love to live here and build more houses and have more traffic, but that's the very thing that makes it desirable now, is for it to be quiet and open and spacious and clean and healthy for the animals. Well, we consider our goats really to be like royalty because they support us. We support them, but they absolutely support the entire dairy. While their cheese is selling, their cheese pays for all the labor, the feed, the hay, the vet work if any needs to be done, and all the things that go into cheese making. So we really honor them. In addition to controlling flies by keeping the areas clean and dry, we use integrated pest management in the form of little tiny gnats that we hang in little sort of sacks around in the areas where the animals do poop and wet, and the little gnats fly out of those sacks. They go right down into the wet spots and eat the fly larvae. And the first time we used these, what are they called? It's integrated pest management. They're little parasitic wasps. That's what they are. The first year we used them, which was in maybe our second year as goat keepers, it took care of 75% of the fly population here. It was just amazing. So we really depend on those little parasitic wasps every year. And the other thing that has helped us with fly control is right outside the dairy. We used to keep the whey, which is a product of the cheese making, in 5-gallon buckets until my son, who raises pigs, and a few other farmers who raise pigs on a very small scale would come to pick up the whey. Well, now we pour those 5-gallon buckets of whey into a huge 250-gallon bucket, which a nearby farmer provides us with from Morganton. And so every time we fill up his huge 250-gallon bucket, he comes and pumps it out and leaves it empty again for us, and we just fill it up again, and we don't have those 5-gallon buckets sitting around full of whey. That has been the thing that has capped off the fly population for us. So that's how we handle waste management. Probably for the last 4 years, my son has been raising piglets. I think they're Tamworth pigs. It's a heritage breed. He's been raising 8 pigs a year for the last few years, and he puts the pigs in a wooded area, and by the time they're ready for harvest, they've cleared a beautiful, beautiful area for him, and they grow up on the acorns in his woods and other things out in the woods and on the dairy whey from here. So when a pig is raised on dairy whey, it produces pork that can be processed into prosciutto, and it is very delicious pork, whether you process it on further into prosciutto or not. But then next door, where I actually grew up, my brother, before he died, had a business partner, Joe Dahl, and about 8 years ago they decided to begin a business that would raise sturgeon fish for the 7 or 8 years that it takes a female sturgeon to produce eggs. What I love about this Yadkin River Valley is we're going to have caviar, goat cheese, sheep cheese, and wine right here within not too many miles of the Yadkin River. These goats that we raise are Saanens. They're big, they're all white, they're very gentle, they're quiet. They're not noisy goats, and then the best thing is that they're most productive. I thought if we're going to have a dairy, we might as well get the goat who is most productive. So she gives the most milk, and she's beautiful to watch out on the green pastures. I can't overlook the fact that it's a beautiful goat, beautiful and productive and sturdy. They're from the Saanen River Valley in Switzerland. So they're very used to the cold here. They prefer the cold winters to the hot, sultry summers, but they do fine summer, winter, spring, and fall here. That's why we chose them, is because of their productivity and their lovely nature. Very affectionate, all have their specific personalities. I love the goats. I love the color of those white goats against those green pastures out there. It's just such a pleasure to see them going out in the morning after they've had their rest, after being milked. They go out to the pasture, across the creek often, or down into the woods. And then at night, a pleasure to see them come back in again as a group. They're always in a group. They're so social. It's a pleasure to see them moving around and hear the bells that they've got on them. All those rural aspects are just very pleasurable. you.